Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And for episode 2 of Talk Taku, where we talk about otaku and weeby shit, I'm joined with two other people who are interested in otaku trash. One of which would be Erlim, who is top left, and Eva Fan, who is top right.
Coolly into shot.
Coolly into shot.
Wow.
Yeah, this is the podcast, vidcast, whatever you want to call it, where we talk about anime, manga, Japanese culture, a whole host of different things, and a lot of the subjects will be kind of inspired by you guys in the chat. Plan is to start off with...
He does know he's muted in the chat with us.
I think so.
I've just realised I was muted in the chat with you guys.
Well done.
Expertly done.
Yeah.
Nobody will notice.
I've been taking notes out of the Book of P-chan. It seems.
Ding.
I think what
we need an automated counter in the corner that just says every time you make a P-chan joke, just bing.
Yeah, I think we're at like 6 or 7.
Oh god, the amount we made for the Cloud Matsuri.
Yeah.
I
Oh, you go.
was gonna say I reckon that we should just answer all the questions like 5 seconds after Ben asks them, just to catch it all up.
Why? Because there's a disparity between my audio and my mouth.
Yes.
Oh, you're not desynced again, are you?
I know that I'm gonna have some kind of desync because I'm streaming through OBS to Discord, and then I'm restreaming out across Streamlabs. So I've just turned Mark up.
Apparently,
I hope his audio is okay now.
Oh. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You crazy otaku.
So
We're
should we
all
start
otaku here.
off with what anime we've watched in the last 2 weeks? Mark, I hear you were watching some anime laid in bed recently, as you were telling us.
I was watching Lost in Space, a quest. Is it a quest? No, Astro Lost in Space.
Okay. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Is that at all any relation to the 1960s TV series Lost in Space?
Nope, I will make sure I got the right name. Astro Lost in Space. So the premise of the story is it makes you think that there is a space camp. And the fact is that these kids have decided to go on a space trip. And it's all part of this huge Astra Lost in Space is what it's called, sorry. And they arrive on this planet and they're going to do space stuff, learn about new things. And a wormhole opens up and sucks them into space. And then they find a ship, and then they've got to go home. And I was just like, it is actually a really good one, because I don't watch many space animes. I don't think there are many space animes. But this was a good one, and I finished it with it all in probably half a day, because I watched most of it last night.
Nice.
There's only 12 episodes.
And that's the main thing you've watched in the last 2 weeks, or have you watched anything else apart from Power Rangers, of course?
Apart from Power Rangers is life. Power Rangers is goal. I actually really can't. I don't know, to be fair. I watched Dragon Maid a while ago. I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. New Game. And then this one. And I think that is pretty much it. I've kind of watched. I've been doing other things like Power Rangers.
Okay. Now I know Chris has watched some new stuff because he's put a couple of new reviews up on his YouTube channel, so...
Well, I know I did that review prior to the last podcast we did.
Mm-hmm.
What else have I watched lately? So I've been making the most of Disney Plus and been watching the Mandalorian. Fantastic series. Definitely gets that sort of Western in space feel. And then I've been finally, and I know some people are going to say, "Oh, you're late to the party," but I've been getting around to watching Clone Wars.
Okay.
So I've just binge watched the whole first season of that, and I'm on the second season now. In terms of anime, I think I've mentioned this before, but the the second season, or due to the weird way that Netflix arranges seasons and slashes them in half and then calls it part 1, part 2, what they're calling part 3 of Grappler Baki. It's in like a tournament arc stage, because every anime needs a tournament arc.
Tournament arc?
Yeah, when are we getting our tournament arc? Where we'll just have people come and challenge us for our place on this podcast.
I think very soon.
First of all, we need a beach scene.
I'm happy for the beach one as well.
It's not going to turn into that weird panty chase episode of Higurashi. We are soul brothers.
Yes. Charlie 2 Bravo has just said he challenges you. So.
Oh, does he now?
So yeah, do you want to give us
your story arc.
A background of Grappler Baki?
So it's a martial arts anime. Weirdly enough, this particular iteration, although it kind of starts later on in the story of it, it kind of assumes you're either familiar with the manga or another adaptation of the earlier arc that was done several years ago. So much like the more recent version of Berserk is a different animation studio, but they just assume that you've seen what goes on before.
Yeah.
And the idea is that this kid, he's a martial arts prodigy, and he ends up entering this underground fighting tournament, having gone through a martial arts tournament as a white belt, and he's beating black belts. He goes into this fighting tournament, and over the course of it, several kind of masters kind of recognize his fighting style, and like, there's something about this kid, and they realize that his dad is like allegedly is referred to not as the strongest human in the world, but as the strongest creature on Earth. His dad's like this legendary kind of badass, and it turns out that Baki does not get on well with his father. But having won this underground fighting tournament, he then has a series of escaped convicts come to Japan, basically trying to challenge him, like we want to experience defeat. And he and several of his friends end up getting challenged. And the major plot point where the first arc or where this previous arc ended was that he had been poisoned with this kind of poison hand technique.
Okay.
And one of his friends is holds the title of Sea King. It's one of these kind of ancient Chinese martial arts masters. And he says, look, the only way you're going to survive is I need to take you to China, and you need to gain entry to this exclusive tournament. And as it happens, the first opponent that Baki fights in that uses the same technique. But there's two variations of this technique, so one's kind of the yin and one's the yang. And so by being hit by the person of the alternate variation of the same technique, the two poisons cancel each other out and he is restored.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of going along with several of the non-Chinese competitors who are basically trying to unseat these kind of Chinese competitors, and this 130-year-old grandmaster who is like the highest rank kind of Sea King there, and he's like China must win for the 4,000-year history of Chinese martial arts. And Baki's kind of agreed to fight against the Chinese competitors, but his real agenda is obviously he wants at some point to square off against his father.
So it definitely sounds like an interesting show.
Yeah.
How many episodes is it for season 1 and season 2?
Again, it gets confusing because of the way Netflix have sliced it up, but I'm actually going to pull up my anime list, because that will tell me where I am with it.
And tell you you've watched 247 days straight of anime.
No, but
Getting close.
I can tell you, not quite that level. You have to watch a hell of a lot of anime to get 200 plus days. So,
I think I was close to about 150 before I stopped recording it.
So it's 13 episodes in this arc, and the previous version was probably about 26. So the previous arc was 26, and this is 13 episodes. And I've just watched up to about episode 7.
Charlie 2 Bravo wants to know if Heirloom's hair is really that grey, or has he dyed it to look like a cosplay Twitch streamer?
Shots fired.
It is 100% natural. It is not dyed. It is very weird. I never had this before I worked at CEX, and then I did.
I mean, mine's coming through as salt and pepper, but yours is like a proper streak.
I don't know how well you can see it in this, like, how much, like, white there is in my beard.
You can see a fair bit.
I have a little bit of white in my beard as well. It's just thing. I think that if I was to ever have like an anime channel dedicated to anime, I'd call myself the anime protagonist.
Yeah.
Red Queen's just put the same thing in chat about 10 seconds before you said it. Yeah.
So I think it'd be cool, because if I ever got into drama, I'd love like drama channels to be like, so the anime protagonist, and everyone would just laugh.
The anime protagonist.
You'd have to just sit at like a Japanese school desk with a wooden chair and green screen it so you're at the back of the classroom next to the window. So you could
I do have a window here.
Yeah.
Oh, chat is already.
What can I do today?
Chat is already nice and lively compared to the last one we did, which is good.
Yes, it's always a bonus. So, shall I move on to what I've been watching? And what I need to have a rant about soon.
We're going to get into rants.
Well, I'll
Please,
save the
Ben.
rant to
Rant
last. Thank you, Cinder Faye, for the follow.
It's my friend Chevy. Hi, Chevy.
So I watched Promare for the first time.
Oh, yes.
That was an experience.
In that way that Studio Trigger anime usually is.
It's visually, it was like I had taken a load of crack and was tripping off my balls watching this visual fidelity. In that sense, it was really, really good. But for me, it felt like they condensed a story that was potentially Gurren Lagann in epicness down into a 2-hour slot. So that was not great. And without giving spoilers, it felt like they were just pulling too many elements of successful stuff that they've done so far and just putting it straight into this film. Like, the main guy from the firefighting force looked exactly like Kamina, just without the tattoos from Gurren Lagann. You had a girl with pinky red hair who wore shorts that was kind of the Yoko character from Gurren Lagann. You even had, like, a little rat character that had a bit of a personality that almost looked like Buta from Gurren Lagann. So there was loads and loads of Gurren Lagann stuff.
And you reckon if you picked it apart with enough knowledge of other Trigger things, you'd probably find references to those as well.
Yeah, exactly right. Even down to the point where... So, I don't want to spoil too much, because it was still an enjoyable film, but I don't think it was worth the hype. But there were bits where the robots started to look like Gurren Lagann. The main bad guy that turned out to be not so bad looked kind of like Viral from Gurren Lagann. There was just so much stuff that they basically just carbon copied and went, we'll have that from Gurren Lagann. That works.
So it felt kind of like almost like a show reel for Trigger then.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I wouldn't say don't watch it, because it was enjoyable in its own right. But if you've seen Gurren Lagann, you'll go, okay, yeah, I can see where they got the inspiration from that. Yeah, okay, I know where this has come from. Yeah, that was direct reference for that. Yes, I know where that's from. So that was the kind of experience I got from Promare, and whilst I'm quite a big Gurren Lagann fanboy, in sense,
Who you? No, surely not.
You know, I mean, I'm trying to duck down. You can see Yoko in the background and the Gurren Lagann DVD box set in the background. I felt that it kind of detracted from the film. I felt that if it had been, if they kept with the story, but the character designs and some of the elements had been designed differently, it would have been a much better experience. China 2 Bravo has just said his new gaming chair is turning up, which is quite cool. So that was Promare.
Nice.
I feel like I'll move on to my rant next. Anime spoilers. What do you guys feel about anime spoilers?
Well, my view...
Sorry, go on, Chris.
I was going to say, my view on anime spoilers is much like my view on spoilers as a whole, but I'll chip in with that after you've got your particular beef off your chest, sir.
So, my beef...
If I'm going to...
Mark, go.
Well then, Mark goes like, oh.
No, go ahead.
God damn it, Ben. If I'm going to watch the anime, then no spoilers, but if I'm not going to bother, just go ahead.
Okay, I will set the
go
scene.
ahead.
You've got Ray Zero, big anime. Rem is massive best girl for years and years to come. Season 2, super hyped anime. 1 hour and 40 minutes the fan sub had been out from Horrible Subs, which we know is the fastest subs out there. 1 hour and 40 minutes, somebody had gone into that episode, clipped the very first scene, turned it into a GIF, and tweeted it out. But what really annoys me is I don't tend to follow a lot of Twitter channels or pages that post a lot of spoilers. I think it was Funimation or Crunchyroll that actually lights the GIF, which meant that it turned up on my newsfeed, and I was sat there going, I literally have this on my hard drive. I'm waiting for my wife to come home from work to watch this. Why would you do that? Why? Admittedly, it was the first scene of the episode, but
I kind of feel if you're following not just anime but any kind of show, you know, like Game of Thrones, for instance, or the latest season of Doctor Who or whatever, if you follow a popular show and you go and you're following channels that or people who share your interest and are therefore likely to talk about it, and you go onto Twitter of all places immediately after the episode is broadcast, it's a hotbed of that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, what was it, an hour and a half, you said? Like,
hour and 40 minutes it was.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
What anime was it again?
Ray Zero?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it. Oh well.
Literally.
To be fair, I saw...
In its defense, the shot in question was actually shown in the director's cut of it, which came out on the Blu-rays. So it had been floating around for a little while, but this person had specifically used tags that were relating to Season 2, and they used that scene to open up Season 2, and it was in relation to certain characters and certain plot points that meant you went, oh god, is that where they're going with Season 2? Oh no, oh god, help. No, they can't do this. No! And then you just start breaking down because if you're a fan of the anime,
you've been ruined. Is that the takeaway here?
It hasn't, but because that particular spoiler, it kind of ruined that first episode. And because it ruined that first episode, it has gotten me off to a bad footing for the season. Because I already saw that coming. If I hadn't seen that coming, I would have gone, holy hell, where are they going to go? Oh my god, and then everything would have kind of collapsed into itself watching that first episode. But because I saw that coming, because I had it spoiled, it was a bit...
I see. It's bad because it confirms things for you rather than leaving a sense of mystery.
Yeah. So that was my rant on spoilers. But Hexeros, brand new season for this anime season, summer. We kind of reviewed it in the previous episode.
So yeah, for the benefit of those who haven't seen us look at the trailer and the synopsis, what is the show about?
So it's a Super Sentai / Power Rangers spoof. It's an animated
Very
one,
popular franchise.
where the bad guys / monsters absorb ecchi energy to power themselves up. And the power of eroticism powers themselves up and allows them to evolve into different styles of creatures based on their kind of initial identity. And then you've got a protagonist who has basically a morpher on his wrist that allows him to transform and use energies within himself to fight these erotic monsters. I'm trying to say it without giving too many spoilers. To try and save the day.
You're trying to say it without saying that it's bordering on hentai.
So, I've seen the first episode. That came out yesterday. And actually, there was a lot more plot to it, and not just plot. There was a lot more standard romance, almost slice of life storyline elements from being in the school, and it actually was very well structured. I was expecting an all-out kind of ecchi fest, so watching this and actually seeing a plot line that kind of circles throughout, I was quite impressed. What also made me giggle is I kind of figured he would end up with a harem, but I didn't realise how quickly he would get his harem. But he kind of gets that. It touches on that within the first episode.
Is it pretty much very similar to like Sakurai?
So I have Sekirei, but
seen...
I haven't watched it yet. It is on my to-watch list.
Pokemon. Oh, go watch. It's basically Pokemon. That's what it is, but for girls. That's what it is.
So, the essential premise is...
This is like Pokemon with girls. I've just got this mental image now. Gotta bang them all.
Well, he doesn't, because any single male protagonist that goes, "Hey, I want a harem." When he gets a harem, he turns around and goes, "I don't want a harem anymore.
That's true.
It'll scare me."
It's literally going into the full Tenchi effect.
So
yeah, like, sorry, go on, man.
Without going into too many spoilers for the first episode, the episode sets it out as if he doesn't have enough power to be able to fight off these bad guys, essentially. And when he uses up his own eroticism, he is completely depleted. So if he gets attacked again, he can't defend the world. So that's why he needs these girls.
He needs to recharge, does he?
He needs to recharge. So that's why you've got this main girl who is his childhood love, and everything else, that you think is going to be like his one and only partner. But then it gets to the end of the episode and you realise that actually he is red, she's going to be yellow, he's got a pink, a black, and all of the colours of the Super Sentai team backing him up so he can get his eroticism points to fight off these bad guys.
At any point, is there a bath scene where one gives him like a back rub and literally leans in and he's like, "Ah!" And then she's like, "But I like it," and then pushes the boobs against his back. That's
gotta happen, right? That's one of those kind of tropes.
I've only seen episode 1, but a lot of it was hand holding, so it was very sweet. Until he uses powers with her, and they all lost their clothes. So,
well, if that's not a power,
well, it's all in the best possible taste.
It reminded
Sorry,
me
go
a
on.
little bit of High School DxD when he basically flicked his fingers and the clothes split off of the girls.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I must
Now,
harness
I'm
my
guessing.
power to make clothing explode.
Now, I'm guessing two of the biggest enemies are Light Streak and Clouds. Or Fog, whatever, Steam, whatever you want to call it.
For the people watching the series, yes. There was a lot of like diamond shapes and like lots of almost lens flares that reminded me very much of Kill la Kill. So yeah, it's I
but
would,
it's only Kill la Kill if you get the epic heel clicks.
yes. But I would put it up there with shows like Keijo. Keijo I highly rate for an ecchi series that actually has the the complexity and the writing to make it quite a good comedy series as well. So it isn't just fan service. It's using the fan service to try and kind of complement the comedy.
So you think this actually shows promise in terms of narrative?
Yes, definitely.
That's cool.
Now, the question is, will it go on Twitter? Will people try and ban it like Keijo? Like, you can't have that does this, rah, 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 rah. And it's like, well, season 1 over.
So it's, at the moment, it's not ecchi enough, and from what I know of the manga, it doesn't go down the route of, like, isekai reviewers. Is it isekai reviewers?
Oh, yes.
I
mean, that got quite...
that got banned.
That blew up huge.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going down that route. I think it is kind of probably...
It was intergalactic reviewers, wasn't it?
Yeah, but is it Ishozoko? I think it's the Japanese name for it.
Alright, okay.
I think it is very much along the lines of Keijo, High School DxD, those kind of shows where it knows its limits, it's not going to push them, it wants to still be out there. It's not a hentai, it is simply a ecchi anime series. So, even though hentai is in the title, it's... I think it's still going to be one that's going to air, and I think it's going to be very popular. So, yeah, that kind of sums up what I've been watching. One thing that was brought up in the last episode that we did, that we kind of touched upon, that we kind of want to go into more detail about, is our anime origins, kind of what started off as we were kids watching anime, but also what actually got us to go down into becoming otaku trash. What actually got us really obsessed with the franchise, or rather the medium of anime, and what kind of led us to this point. So, Chris, being that I think you were the oldest of us, who probably started off earliest out of all of us.
Did they have anime in the Stone Age?
Yeah, we had to make our own cavemen paintings of fishermen's wives. Because, of course, that's where some of the earliest hentai and ecchi came from.
Yeah.
Before we jump into this particular topic, although it does lead nicely into one of the shows that I want to talk about, I just came across something yesterday, which I think I mentioned this to you earlier, Ben. This might be worth a screen share for just to show, because I don't think it's got that much attention so far. It's something people might be interested in.
Okay, if you go into screen share mode, I can probably get screen share up working.
Oh, I can screen share it, can I?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
So let me click screen share a second, see if that comes up correctly.
What?
I don't know why that is showing.
It might be easier for me to drop you the link to the YouTube video and you share it, because I think it's gonna...
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
It's probably quicker and easier. I can just paste that to you, put it in the text channel.
Let's see if this doesn't go wrong. That did go wrong for a second, but let's try and... Right, so Right. Let's work out how to do this.
See, if you're struggling to work out how to do it, I think I'd have been...
So I need to set that as screen share. It's more to get everybody to watch at the same time. So let's pause that. Let's go share my screen. Do that.
It says watch the stream.
Let's go.
Let's pull up chat and go, well, the Twitch thing on here.
自分には関係ない。そう思っていた私たちの前に。
Sorry guys, I'm hoping this is
悪魔
showing
が
out
突
to you
然
guys.
現れた。そして嘲笑うかのように
I've just
人類へ
checked.
言った
It is showing.
人類はついに悪夢に抗う術を手にする。人々は歓喜に酔いしれた。しかし神の圧倒的な力の前には無力だった。何も知らないから分かり合えない。分かり合えないから不安になる。不安になるから逃げる。逃げるから心が離れていく。
Yeah, this randomly came up on my YouTube recommendations, and I was like, YouTube knows me.
That does look pretty cool. Oh, it's Evangelion, isn't it? That is pretty cool, to be fair. Is this the live action one?
Is he listening to Linkin Park?
He's listening to whatever track 26 is on that cassette.
あなたは死なないわ。
So it's Linkin Park then. Is he sitting in the corner, crying?
私が守る。
Oh wow.
Oh, it's 3D. That's pretty awesome. Like all of it's 3D, not just like elements.
Mm.
お互いをつなげて一緒に向き合おう。
That looks pretty cool to me. Happy music.
It's just from Ava, the second rebuild movie. This is just credits. It does give some comparison shots later on between the anime.
Yep.
What's amazing about this, having done the research, this is entirely fan-made.
Wow.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
That's nuts. Completely and utterly nuts. But yeah, this is some film students kind of pitch like the I really love anime, I really love Ava, I wanted to kind of make this. And yeah, having looked at it as well, he did like mock-ups to bits that weren't even in that trailer.
Yeah.
Just very, very cool, and it was something that I thought people would want to see. It's, yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a live action Ava. I mean, there's a whole can of worms in talking about live action Ava, and you know where that would go, but that is just something that I wanted to share with everybody because I thought it was really cool.
That was quite cool, and I guess Eva is probably one of your kicking off points from what got you into anime.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you probably guessed by the fact I go by the name of Ava fan. I am a fan of Evangelion. So yeah, I was super excited when I saw that. I mean, I grew up in the 80s. A lot of cartoons in the 80s were either outsourced to Japanese studios to animate, or were made in conjunction with the Japanese studios, so they were co-written and co-produced. So the art style I've been exposed to for quite some time, and I vaguely remember seeing Studio Ghibli's Laputa, because that was actually broadcast on terrestrial television in the UK in about 1993, I think. But Evangelion is the show that got me from being somebody who was vaguely aware of this particular art style and suddenly made me go, wow, I want to see more stuff like this. I want to experience this, because there was a style of storytelling there that I hadn't really sort of encountered before. And that was kind of the opening of Pandora's box. And some people would say, you jump into the deep end with one of the weirdest and most, I know some people say controversial. I'm not sure that Evangelion is necessarily that controversial, but it certainly poses questions without necessarily giving you answers. But from that, I started going into various other anime, and I watched a lot of, because of what was available to me at the time, and I didn't kind of have a whole lot of money, and VHS was expensive. I was dependent on friends and borrowing stuff from them, so I saw a lot of late 80s, early 90s anime. So I watched things like Akira, like Appleseed, Ghost in the Shell, and Bubblegum Crisis, which is another classic show, which I recently managed to pick up on Blu-ray. And it's just fantastic. Although my one criticism of the Blu-ray is that the audio, I think the Japanese audio, for some sort of reason, has like the translations to the lyrics are based on the English re-recording of the songs rather than the Japanese, which is kind of a shame because it means it's not a true translation of the actual song. But I mean, that was quite a cool show because in terms of that sort of real cyberpunk vibe and very 80s big hair, and rock anthems and power ballads and stuff. Obviously, that got remade during the late 90s, and the remake of Bubblegum Crisis is pretty cool. It does its own thing with it, but like so many other remakes or reinterpretations, it pays homage to sort of all of that kind of stuff that came before. And being an anime fan in the kind of mid to late 90s and coming into anime at that point was amazing, because that's right when it really started to gain traction in the West. Obviously, it had success in America, but a lot of big anime and the success of anime, certainly in the UK, really came about towards the end of the 90s because Evangelion was so critically received that it was getting shown on some of the cable networks. Likewise, so was things like the Bubblegum Crisis remake, Nadesco. They were also, and various things like that were all being added into Toonami and stuff like that. Well, certainly Toonami was kind of the home of things like Trigun and, of course, Dragon Ball Z.
So would you say the movement to be an anime fan went from the initial startings and was a kind of an upwards wave with no breaks, just kind of adapting more and more things that was coming your way to your interests?
Oh, you mean me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
There was no break. There was no like period of time where you weren't interested in anime. There was just different animes that were coming out, and you were slowly building up a repertoire. That
I did the same thing that a lot of people do when you start getting into anime. You kind of, when you're first exposed to it and to those types of storytelling and those types of narratives that you don't necessarily see in Western fiction, you kind of go, oh, what is this? I want to see more. And initially, you'll just consume whatever comes your way. And after a while, you start to go, I like this particular genre, so I like big mech shows, or I like science fiction. I'm maybe not so fussed for, kind of harem romance comedy anime. And so initially you take everything, and later on you might go, actually, you can be more picky and choosy. And of course, where we are now, there's so much available. We have the freedom to be picky and choosy.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I know you've said before that everybody always goes for a phase of trash anime, and I think a lot of people would probably do that fairly early on. I mean, I've seen things like Demon City Shinjuku, which it's all right, but it's a bit of an odd one. Miyuki-chan in Wonderland. You know, there's a whole bunch of really obscure shows that I can go, yeah, I've seen that. Wouldn't rush to watch it again.
see, for my experience of it, it is very split into two age groups. So, growing up with Blue Yonder / Sky Contact availability, I had things like Fox Kids, and I watched all of the things like Pokemon, Digimon, all of the standard things that I would class into the younger age group, including things like Sailor Moon and elements around that. So I had that bracket, but then I had a number of years where basically nothing, because I kind of watched on the fringes a little bit of like the Sailor Moon and everything else that was going on, but it was kind of frowned upon because that was classed as kids' TV. So,
well, of course, the adaptation of Sailor Moon that we had here in the UK was one of the few anime that was on mainstream. So, for those of us that didn't have Sky or cable, and it was shown on a heavily edited version on GMTV. So, yeah, I mean, I remember watching that, and I know that I know now, even to a degree I knew at the time, that there was a lot of subtext and plot that was lost in translation, but it acted as a springboard. Yeah, Pokemon was blowing up right around the time, or a little just after I'd come into anime. I'm not personally that invested in Pokemon, but I appreciate what it's done for the wider community in the industry. So yeah, I think there is that.
So I had that in the younger ages, and then when I kind of got to the early teens, I kind of watched a little bit of what I used to watch as a kid, but I also got into a little bit of video editing. I was making music videos for TV shows that I was watching at the time, and actually something that sparked a memory in my mind was watching a recent Trash Taste podcast with Giguk, and he mentioned the fact that he had LimeWire on his computer.
Oh god, that dates it.
And he went to download Linkin Park Hybrid Theory or Meteora, one of the first Linkin Park albums. Which
Hybrid Theory is 20 years old, by the way, now.
Yeah, I went to do exactly the same thing. But it was music videos as well. So I went to download that, and somebody had replaced what was the files on LimeWire with Bible Black.
Oh.
See, I thought you were going to go down the route of saying it was a Linkin Park AMV, because let's face it, Linkin Park has been used for every anime music video of every show ever.
That's what I was going to do, and I think I was going to do like a Naruto music video or something like that, or
of course you were, because you're trash.
Yeah, because I'm trash. And I went to download. It was a zip file which was meant to have all of the songs in high quality HQ on the LimeWire or whatever. I think it was BearShare, and it ended up being like 2 episodes of Bible Black, and I started watching these going, why is this Linkin Park? I don't get why this is Linkin Park. And then
there's a lot of chat in the comments, people remembering LimeWire. I like this. What I want to know is, is anybody seriously old school and was downloading, I don't know if like video stuff, certainly for their music and stuff, things like Napster.
If you remember, say Napster.
I remember Napster.
I remember
as well.
Do you remember the I think it was Camp Chaos did those kind of parodies at the time, because there was the legal cases with Metallica of beer good, Napster bad. Oh man, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah, so I would say watching Bible Black at the age of 13 was kind of my was kind of my middle stage. But then I mentioned to you in the previous episode that Hentai Dave used to show me stuff on the way to school. Not hentai, but just like anime. And he was the one that actually got me to come to West Country Anime. And
Yes.
one of the first anime that I remember that I actually forced me into the anime franchise and I got invested in was Higurashi. Because you were showing that.
Fantastic show.
Yeah, you were showing that. I downloaded Higurashi, but I mistakenly downloaded season 2. And because season 2 is a lot of the answer arcs, I didn't get a lot of the horror and stuff until I sat in a West Country Anime session where I think Ty had made a hatchet out of some cardboard and tinfoil.
To scare Tom.
To scare Tom. And I just
right when Renner is hunting Keiichi with the hatchet. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw this kid basically jump out of his skin and go to run out of the room because of this anime, and I'm like, well, I've kind of already watched like half of the season, but it had been season 2, so I didn't know what was going on there. So that kind of got me into it, and at the same time, things like Gurren Lagann was coming out. I was introduced to Elfenlied and a lot of the classic, almost horror / actions.
You jumped in for a lot of psychological horror stuff.
Yeah. And that kind of got me hooked. And then you guys dragged me to my first Minamicon, and that was it said. That was my origin story. As soon as I started going to conventions,
once you go into the filthy levels of weebery of actually being at a con and cosplaying, well, that's it. You're screwed. They've got you.
I've got a video somewhere of the Halloween West Country Anime. I think I must have been about 16 or 17, and there was this thing where I was sat on a chair and Dave was kind of in something that was not very well.
Oh God!
Covered.
No, I know exactly. You were dressed. If I remember correctly, you were dressed as Keiichi from Higurashi.
Yeah.
And Dave, another Dave, who is also known by the nickname of Mad Cat, was dressed in a Strike Witches cosplay.
Yes, he was.
And he
barely covered his ass. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got that video somewhere on one of my hard drives. So that's my origin stories, Mark. We'll leave that at that.
Well,
I do need to pop to the loo though, so I'll be right back.
Toodaloo!
God damn, I'll wait till you come back then.
Okay, you can come up with some discussion whilst I'm away.
Well, I tell you what, we might if you're gonna run to the toilet, we might just take a moment to see what the chat's doing.
I have it up. User 4822282 says, I like anime. Do you? Yes, user 222482. I do like anime. The Pretzel Rocks says they are now playing Fragments by Approaching Nirvana and Akuma. That's a very interesting choice of words there and song that you're listening to. Well done, Pretzel Rocks.
Pretzel Rocks the automated bot, I think?
I know. I'm just kind of playing up to it. Dread Red Queen says, I love how you guys are doing this. You guys rock. I'm so happy that I'm in the other room listening to your voices. Well, thank you, Dread Red Queen. Thank you for saying that. Cinderfay says, LimeWire and Kazaa, or however you spell it, was my go-to in my teens for anime. I forgot about Kazaa. That's one thing I was like, Kazaa, that's a one. Napster, WinRAR. Well, WinRAR was the media player. I don't even know if that was around still.
No, you're thinking of Winamp.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Winamp. Sorry, yeah. See, that's how old it is. I get the names wrong.
Oh man, look, if you were cool back in the day, the coolest thing you could do, and I probably have it on one of my backups somewhere, is various anime skins for Winamp, some of which I made.
And back.
That'd be cool.
Have you had a look at the comments?
Welcome back.
We had a little bit look at the comments, and then we briefly went on a tangent about Winamp for a moment there.
Yeah, I think Wifey said that I showed her Higurashi for the first time, and one of the memories she has is she had to go home on the train back from Plymouth to Portsmouth because she was living in Portsmouth with her parents, and she didn't want to go home at the time because she wanted to check that Satoko was okay, because we were halfway through an arc on Higurashi. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, the twins.
Oh, but I remember Winamp as well. Winamp was awesome.
I was just saying, some of my backups, I've got various skins for Winamp, some of which I made.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got various kind of sad weeby things there.
So Mark, your origins.
Okay, so I was sitting in my local high school, looking out the window, watching the track team run by, when all of a sudden a giant monster just seemed to appear out of nowhere and was just like, "You need to watch the anime!" So I was like, holy shit. And then I drew my cards. I challenged it to a card game. I won. I didn't send it to any other realm. It was just literally me just winning a card game. Then all of a sudden it punched one of my best friends and they went flying behind me. So my hair stood up on end and boom! And that's how I got into it. No, not my origin story. I wish. So
I always want a show where that is somebody's origin story.
Somebody has said ha 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 with the llama. I assume there was a llama in that story somewhere.
Possibly, but I can't tell it because that brings back memories of Lami, who suddenly passed on after he got hit very hard and flew into a wall. Well, I always class Thundercats as like an anime, but then many people kind of argue it. So if it was my first proper Japanese anime, then it was Appleseed that I watched, and then my brother gave me some tapes because he was into it, and it was possibly one of the best animes that I've ever watched, which is Project Eiko.
Classic.
And I have both of them. And which I kind of really got into like quite a bit. Then I watched Route Z, and I thought this is it. But because anime wasn't a major thing roughly when I was there, it was very hard to get hold of. VH tapes was the way forward. I don't have the other one I have. It's probably somewhere. But I had I think it was when Sky came out. I watched Dragon Ball Z for the very first time. And I hated it. I goddamn hated Dragon Ball Z. But when I saw Goku transform for a Super Saiyan, I literally went, sold! And that is literally, I loved it ever since then.
Oh, wow. So
kind of watched
you had a chalk and cheese reaction to it then. You initially were like, what is this? I don't get it. It's not that cool. And then you're like, holy shit!
It was probably charging up for 4 episodes beforehand.
Yeah, we've only got 5 minutes to save the episode. How long are these episodes? Save the Earth. How long are these episodes? 25 minutes. How many episodes have we done before? 10 episodes.
In Dragon Ball Z time, that's 5 minutes. 25 episodes, 5 minutes. Oh no, I like the guy that I was watching anime with, because it was on Toonami. And he invited me around, and we started watching it. And I remember taking the piss, like, oh my god, I can't believe these people can fly and shoot balls of energy or lasers from their hands. That's stupid. It's the most shittest thing that I've ever seen. How dare anime do this? It's not even realistic. And then when Goku transformed, I was like, I'm sold. I am 100% hooked. I remember going by, and this is how bad it was. I remember going home that day, ringing Sky up, and I wasn't old enough to have a contract or something, but they gave me a Sky box, and I had Sky for ages, and I watched it on like Toonami.
So
I was in high school.
So you managed to get a Sky box delivered to your parents' address and get Sky, and neither you nor your parents were being billed for it.
No, we were being billed for it.
All right.
No, we were being.
Sorry, it's not so cool anymore.
Well, I was I was in high school, so you're probably looking at I was like maybe 15, something like that, and they gave me an account where you probably have to be 18 or older. But no, I got it. I absolutely loved it. Then I think we couldn't access it that much, and I think then again because the internet wasn't that great. Obviously, it just started, so we ended up like I kind of didn't watch a lot of it until it came on DVD and stuff like that. And I was buying at the time I was buying whatever I could to do it. I think I watched Evangelion. I couldn't get into that. It's like one of the animes I can never really watch apart from Death and Rebirth because that's like 10 times easier to watch. I think. Then there was.
You can see Chris there, just like.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna rant.
Hang on. There's an anime where this guy would have like a gem on his hand. He had blonde hair, and I know that some of my friends and I were kind of watching it, and it was really, really good. And then it was whatever anime kind of popped up, and then obviously as the internet got better and better, he was able to download stuff and download animes after someone was kind of talking about it. And saying, hey, like you should watch this. This is what we should watch. That's kind of it. I just kind of fell into it at a very early age. I just never kind of grew out of it. Went to university. Watched Yu-Gi-Oh. Watched more Dragon Ball Z, and I think that's it. I've made some really good friends through it. Just liking it. I'm never going to join another anime club in my life because I fucking hate that. God damn it!
So it's interesting that you bring up anime clubs because as soon as I went to university, I joined my anime club pretty much as soon as they announced that it was going live. That was Winchester Anime and Manga Society, not West Country Anime and Manga Society. So I went from WAMS to WAMS.
We were never called. It was just West Country Anime.
Okay.
I should know. I was one of the sad bastards who founded it.
Okay, so I went from WAM to WAMS.
I didn't join an anime club. I just went straight to I'm going to make an anime club.
I went from after my origins, I started going to West Country Anime, and then I became a supervisor at CEX, which I think is a lot of CEX people's origins into anime, because for a period of time anime wasn't seen as a valuable commodity. So when we were buying in DVDs for different anime series like Akira or Ninja Scroll or anything like that, we were selling them for like
50 billion versions of Ninja Scroll and CEX.
Yeah, but there was loads and loads of different series, and they were priced at like £1 or £1.20, and you go, well, I've got 15% discount anyway. Let's get this, and if I don't like it, I can return it within 48 hours. So you ended up watching it that night and returning it within 48 hours and getting your cash back.
I remember that.
What, your hard-earned pound?
Yes, my hard-earned pound. And then, as I say, I went to university, and we had this thing where we would have we would vote on, I think it was vote on 2 series from the current season to watch. Then we'd have 2 series that were older that we could watch, and then we would have a live action / movie night that was on a different night. So I got exposed to a hell of a lot of different animes and live actions. Densha Otoko, for example, if you haven't seen.
Train Map.
I got introduced to that through Winchester Anime, and there was just so much exposure there, and I kind of went, hey, so I used to be part of this anime society in Plymouth. They went to this cool convention called Minamicon. It's literally 2 minutes down the road in Southampton. We should probably go. And that's when we started dragging people to Minamicon from the university group.
It's, you know what? I mean, universities are a great way to have an anime society because you're more likely to have it. But whether you have a university-based society or whether it's an independent group, going to an anime club like that, or making friends with other anime fans and going around watching anime at their house, means that you're probably going to be exposed to a whole lot more stuff and genres that you might otherwise have just gone, oh, I'm not really sure about that. So yeah, I think there's definitely advantages to that, because you avoid that classic thing of, oh, I'm not paying money for that, or I'm not going to download that, to, oh, well, that's on, let's see what it's about. And you might go, wasn't for me, or you might go, oh, I need to see more of that. And so
I think some of the conventions you can go to in the UK kind of help that as well. So this might move on to one of the subjects we weren't potentially planning on covering tonight, but is in our doc, about the UK convention scene, and talking about what's available and what the difference is between like an expo and an actual convention / there's a variety of things that are available.
I think before we power into that, because we've just powered through the first hour quite impressively.
Yeah.
Let's because the chat's quite active tonight. Let's actually take a look, because I know various people were commenting about some of the stuff that they started watching.
So Charlie 2 Bravo has said that he thought Dragon Ball Z was called Dragon Balls Deep.
Great name.
Thanks for that one, Charlie.
That's pretty much it. Apart from the
people talk about Winamp and me not knowing the startup noise for Winamp. I can't remember, to be fair.
So even though she's not joining us for the stream, Fred Brad Green has been quite active in chat. Yeah, so she's talked about some of her starting shows. Again, things like Ava, Akira, Outlaw Star. How could we forget Outlaw Star and Cowboy Bebop? Classics. And also referencing like things like Ulysses 31, Jace Wheel Warriors. This comes back to what I said about the classic 80s cartoons. I mean, Ulysses 31 actually wasn't just animated, it was a direct, I think, French and Japanese co-production.
We have just been asked a very interesting question about suggesting an anime for someone that might want to dip their toe. Something accessible.
One Piece.
I think my first point of that is, what do you normally like to watch in terms of normal shows? Because that can kind of guide you in terms of what anime you want to watch.
Yeah, because I think the classic trap is that people assume that anime is a genre and anime is a medium, and there's a whole lot of genres within that. So, yeah, if you like science fiction, you recommend somebody science fiction. If you like fantasy, there are fantasy anime out there.
So we said Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, Interstellar, spacey stuff.
Okay.
One that I really watch, I've just finished reaching, is Astra, Lost in Space, because I feel like that's not too long. It gives you the story that you want, but then it also has suspense at times. Like, I always find that if you watch an anime and it has a a surprise ending that makes you want to stay and watch the next one, when you've got like work the next morning or you've got to do something, you're like, one more.
Oh, yeah, it's not binge watching.
Yeah. But because it's 12 episodes, I think that's a very good start if you're into like kind of sci-fi and space. And it has one of those things, like, I won't give like too much spoilers to it, but in the very first episode, they say there is a killer on board. Who is it? But because they've all got to work together, they don't kind of play into it a lot, but it kind of keeps you going, like, oh, who could it be? And you've got to guess who it is. And then when you find out, you're like, oh, damn. And then that's when that's what I kind of like, because I was thinking there's points like last night where I was like, oh, it's like 1 a.m, I'll go to bed now. Oh, look, it's 3 a.m, and I need to sleep.
Yeah. I kind of have 3. 2 you probably will have like super obvious, and then the 1 you probably wouldn't expect. So my first one, if you like space stuff and you might like things like Firefly, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
that's a good shout. Eventually, if you get into it, we've mentioned it. I mentioned it earlier. Gurren Lagann gets very spacey, but actually, if you want something that's almost Naruto in terms of you've got like an almost like very quick change in different storylines and things that are going on, but based in space, Space Dandy. If you have
Space Dandy's one of the few shows that I actually dropped. I just wasn't. I found it a bit lacking in substance. I've got to be honest.
I thought it was very good. It was almost like an anime space version of Rick and Morty for me. It was like a self-contained story in every episode, with a little bit of overarching stuff. But it was kind of slightly comedy-based, slightly action-based, that somebody could potentially dip their toe in and go, okay, this is kind of, I can have this on whilst I'm doing other things, or, that's how I looked at that.
I mean, just based on the prompts that Charlie's given us, said Star Wars, Interstellar, MCU. If you like superhero stuff, I can strongly recommend Tiger and Bunny. That's actually the premise. So that's quite cool. The idea of metahumans as a thing and superheroes, and the idea that superheroes get sponsored and there is a dedicated superhero network. So it's like kind of imagine like police camera action. Now imagine that it's live and that you're following superheroes, and depending on whether or not they stop the villains or stuff, they can win points to get their ratings. So.
I kind of feel dirty about to mention this, but if you're into
My Hero
superheroes, I was literally about to say, if you're into superheroes, there is My Hero Academia.
It's a hot anime at the moment, why not?
It's a good anime.
I have seen The Boys. The Boys is very good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait for the second season of The Boys.
It's coming up
One
next
thing
month,
that I will say,
I think.
Ben, have you seen the My Hero Academia film, the newest one?
I have not seen a single episode of My Hero Academia. I am.
Neither have I.
Right. So this is how perverted my mind went when I saw the film in the cinema. Don't worry, it's PG pervertedness. So there's a scene in I hate to say spoilers, but in this film, there's a scene where Deku's like, "Oh, I'm going to give you my power to one of his friends who hates him," and the only way for Deku's power to kind of transfer is if you ingest DNA. So, like a hair sample is where All Might gave it to Deku, but this guy doesn't eat his hair, but there's blood on his finger, and he's like, "I'm just going to pass it over to you," and I just imagine the main character or the bad character just going, that's nice. And just sucking his finger. And I was just like, when I said that to my friend, she was like, fucking hate you. And I was like, but it's true. It's the only way they could do it. So yeah, there's that thought if you watch it.
I can't believe here we are talking about various things. Suddenly thinking superheroes. How have we not mentioned One Punch Man?
One Punch!
Never.
I mean, One Punch is hilarious.
Season 1 is good. Season 2 is not great.
Yeah. Season 1, great fun. Season 2 feels like they were deliberately angling for Season 3.
And it was a different animation company.
Another really good anime that I really enjoyed was Haru Suzumiya, Melancholies of Haru Suzumiya. I think this is a really good starting anime. But I will give it if I can find it. This season 2 is trash, ultimate trash. I hate it.
Actually,
and I love the series.
You've just spawned a thought in my mind as well. Talking about kind of the action style of things, and almost like it's not space based, but it has got a bit of superpowers. Angel Beats. If you want something that's going to put you through a roller coaster that has got a bit of a school element of it, it's got a bit of superpowers, it's got a bit of action as well, but also has an overarching plot that will probably make you cry, Angel Beats is a very good one.
Yeah.
Just gonna dead there.
I'm trying to think now if there's any kind of other obvious recommendations based on those prompts.
Space.
On the subject of space, just because it's got that sort of great skill and some fantastic ship-to-ship fight or massive fleet battles. Two things that I could recommend. One is Legend of the Galactic Heroes. It's literally a galactic space war. Nadesco, yeah. All right, so this is three things. And the other one would be Gunbuster. I mean, there's a screenshot I used for a panel somewhere where I was talking about the origins of the studio behind Evangelion, and I said, just to point out how cool Gunbuster is, here is a picture of a 230-meter tall robot drop kicking a spaceship.
So, just want to point out at the end of this that we recommend you support the original release, and if you can get it from Manga Entertainment or you can get it from all the anime or anything like that, I would recommend buying the DVD for these things. But if you want to dip your toe in and you want to go through less legitimate means, I'm not saying anything in particular, but nya.si. Nya.si. Okay.
Well done. Why don't you just go like something like this, Ben? Just go anime.
Well, that's why I said support the original release, but there are. I mean, there's a load of streaming sites out there as well.
I think in this day and age, there is a great deal more legitimate sources, and you should definitely try and support it, even if you're just kind of doing it via Netflix or Amazon. I think we said before that Netflix selection of anime and the quality of anime on there is improving all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
if you can find it on something you're already subscribing to, go for that. If you don't know whether anime is your sort of thing and want to have a look, there are ways and means that even going to conventions that are generalized conventions, they often have watch-alongs and stuff where you can kind of be exposed to things that...
Well, video streaming rooms are becoming less and less of a thing, largely because the cost just to broadcast stuff at convention gets expensive, and you're always limited because it's dependent on what you can get licenses for. Not to mention the fact that now, because of streaming, and in cases of things like Crunchyroll, where it's being streamed within an hour of the original broadcast, people who really want to see something will find a way to see it long before you can get a license for something at convention.
Actually, that's a fair point to mention as well. Crunchyroll, if you can put up with adverts, you can use Crunchyroll for free.
Just don't ever use the free version on the tablet. It's just unwatchable.
I think, to be fair, like with streaming stuff, like the two biggest ones at the moment, or the three kind of biggest ones. One is Funimation, one is Crunchyroll, and then the third one is Netflix. So you can normally get like a 14-day free trial, so you can watch it. Crunchyroll, I always find that Funimation will have like most of their stuff, but Crunchyroll has like kind of a huge thing, which is then like in subs and stuff like that. But you can get like a 14-day trial that you can go, hey, let's watch this. Netflix will have it on there, so if you're paying for a Netflix subscription, it's got the anime section, which isn't that great, but it has a good kind of selection of anime on there.
Amazon Prime tends to have a fair bit as well. So we watched...
The problem with Prime, though, is that... and it's one of the things that annoys me about Prime, is that unlike Netflix or Crunchyroll, where once you pay, you've got access to everything, Prime, you pay and you still sometimes have to pay again. Maybe not so much for... Well, not so much for anime series, but some of the anime feature films and stuff on there. It's like rent this movie for £2 or £3, and you're like, oh, wow, you're probably de-incentivized to do it if it's not already included in what you're paying.
Yeah.
I know it's it's a pain that when I've looked at some stuff on Amazon, and they do have like a very low selection, but it is kind of cheeky. It's like, hey, do you want to check out Dragon Ball Z or High School DxD? Yeah, cool, I'll do that. Oh, Funimation, you have to pay them and us as well, and just like.
So I think
Might as
it
well
was
just get
partway
straight
through
funny.
last year that one of the seasons they bought the rights for Recreators, which was one of the hottest animes for that season, or popular animes for that season. So you could literally, you had to either pirate it or you had to pay for Amazon Prime to go and watch it on there, which was a bit of a pain. I have a Prime subscription, so that was fine. But so they tend to they choose one or two of the top animes and go, we're going to have that one, so Netflix doesn't have it. And that's kind of how Prime does their thing.
I think this is also one of the things to Netflix credit is that Netflix is, because it's co-funding and kind of, at least from a distribution point of view, is involved in the production of some anime. It's getting a reasonable amount of stuff on there, and the quality of that stuff. And as Mark said, it's not the best source of anime, but I would say in the last 6 months or more, the anime totals and the selection on there has been getting better. Yeah. I think that's partly down to the fact that Netflix are kind of looking at what their next big market's going to be, having lost all of the Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars related content they had.
Well, anime is becoming more mainstream now because it's becoming more popular. It's taking over from like the comic book genre, like Marvel, DC, and stuff. So I think that because anime has this new element where it can cater for everything, it can cater for pretty much every single genre you can think of, and I think that's a good thing. So I think over time you'll see in the next couple of years that it will become more mainstream, that you'll see proper animes on TV. You'll see it in cinemas. And if you think back to how geek culture was when all this started, it's more kind of, people are more accepting it now because people like geeks related stuff. They like girls and guys and geek related things. Like, it's more interesting to talk about, say, hey, have you seen that new superhero film, fellow fan? And you're like, I have seen that superhero film, fellow fan. And therefore it kind of carries on. So I think anime, you're going to see a lot more stuff. I mean, hell, like all the Blu-rays I've got are here. Back in the 90s, you would never see anything like that because it'd be a very small corner in a TV store. Now you can just go on Amazon and order the entire series for X amount, or you can now stream it.
Even early noughties, it wasn't so much VHSs. It was, you either passed around a giant wallet full of DVDs for people to watch, or if you were lucky, somebody would have a 500 gig hard drive with standard definition copies.
Of 500 gig in the early noughties, more like
that was the hard drive I had in 2004, I think 2005, and that's what I kind of got people to copy stuff onto. It's so that I could watch it and enjoy it and learn about it. And that's why I spend so much money on legitimate copies now, is because I enjoyed that when I did. And I went, well, I enjoyed it for free. I'm going to pay for it now because I've got the money now. And because there are copies now.
Yeah. I think what's also a good... Sorry, I think what's a really good thing now is, at the end of the day, like, I was so burnt in the past by buying something and then not enjoying it. Luckily, we were able to return things. Now they've changed the rules for it. What I find interesting is if I download it the not normal way, and I like it enough, I will go and buy it. Like this one, not in another world with not my smartphone, is I started watching it not the normal way, but I liked it enough, and then when I saw it at a decent price, I went and bought it for the official release. And I've done that with a lot of my stuff. I like streaming it now because it means that I don't have to put it stuff anywhere. But I also like having a physical copy of it sometimes. So if I enjoy the series enough, I'll go out and buy it. I think a lot of people kind of do that now.
I mean, we talked about this briefly before about the appeal, certainly, of what all the anime are doing at the moment, where their particular market is doing their collector's editions, because they realise that the casual anime fan who's kind of dipping their toe in will watch it on whatever streaming platform they're subscribed to. But the collectors will always go, I watched that show on Netflix, or I've watched it and several times on Crunchyroll, but I physically want it on my shelf. A good example of it is you can just see if I can't quite angle myself, but you can kind of see the shining edge of the DVD case in the far shelf for my Platinum edition of Evangelion on DVD. I'm not going to get rid of that anytime soon, but as and when all the anime start taking pre-orders for their Blu-ray edition of it, I'll buy that as well, because I love the show that much.
Would you sell the previous copy? And
No, I'm going to keep that as well, because it's in a nice collector's tin and everything. Admittedly, I know that that's kind of particularly nerdy, but I'm in a position where I can afford to do that. It's no skin off my back. And I just want to pick up on something that Mark said, because I think he really hit the nail on the head, is we're in an age now where you can be a nerd and proud. You know, being a nerd in the 90s was, you didn't want to advertise that, because, you know, if you liked anime then, you were the creepy weird kid. Oh, you watch those weird Japanese cartoons, isn't that all just sex and violence? And now anime and comic books and heck, even the fact that we've got streaming platforms where people stream D&D, so much of nerd culture is so much more out there and open and readily available in a way that it wasn't previously.
Our next D&D game is next Friday.
Yeah,
just want to tell our audience that.
I've given you the perfect segue to promote you there. Dread Queen's off to bed.
Yeah, she is. So,
you will be available to join us next time we do one of these shows.
Yeah, she should be. It's just because her shifts changed for Saturday. That was the only reason she couldn't make it tonight. Yeah, literally since COVID has happened, talking about D&D, we've recorded 24 and a bit hours worth of D&D games.
You need to drop me a link for that, because I've tried looking on your channel before and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, we've got it set up as a playlist. We've done 6 games so far, and each one are between 4 and 5 hours. And we've been getting more out of our games doing it online than we have doing it in person, because you end up eating and like you get distracted and stuff. So it's been really good. But yeah, I'll drop you a link to that. But
do you not sit around with snacks and drinks while you game at the table when you have an in-person group?
So with our in-person group, what we tend to do is we turn up to the cafe to do it, then we order food, sit and eat food and we could somewhat start whilst we're eating, but at the same time there's breaks and stuff, and me and the wife drive an hour to this game. So we have to finish by like 9 o'clock, so we can only get at best 2.5 to 3 hours out of that game.
I mean, game public space is a bit of a awkward one.
Yeah, but kind of touching back on essentially the previous topic of things have become more popular, being a nerd's become more popular, and people are more willing to be outwardly nerdy about things. Kind of leads on to what I was the topic I was trying to go on to earlier, is certainly from my perspective, things like MCM Expo has gone from somewhere around 70 to 80,000 people coming over a course of a Saturday and Sunday to days where they have 110,000 people going through MCM Expo.
So it's what I think the highest recorded that they've had for the London show so far is about 130,000 over the course of the weekend.
Yeah.
But whereas before, as you said, it was like you'd get the bulk of that on the Saturday. A lot of those is 130,000, and a lot of those are people who were there for the whole weekend. It's huge. I mean, I first went in 2006, and it was just the Saturday and Sunday, and it was in one of those halls, maybe two, and now they're taking over like 60-70% of the XL. It's huge. You know, it's crazy.
It's gotten bigger. it's gotten a lot bigger because when I first started going to it, like years and years and years ago, there was hardly anyone there. So anyone knows if they've been to MCM, like going, think of like a Sunday where it's completely empty. That would have been like back then their busiest day, and it's completely changed. And I think as culture has changed and it's been more accepting, people are coming out now and going, hey, I really want to go to a convention. I really want to go see my friends, and they meet other people there, and then they go, hey, I can't wait to see you in October, and let's hang out. And it forms online friends, and then you've got different groups. I think because it's been normalized like quite a lot now, people are willing to go for the entire weekend. I haven't been for, I think, since just before lockdown, but I really enjoyed going. I had a bit of problems, but I enjoyed being there. It's just way too expensive, though. That's the thing. Yeah. It's way goddamn too expensive.
So I think I started going to MCM religiously from around 2009, 2010. And I went to every October and May Expo. I ran a lot of the photo shoots and things that were going there. I did the DC versus Marvel photo shoot. I met my wife.
On that for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, I met my wife at MCM Expo, and for a while we were saying there's never ever going to be an October or May that we're going to miss. This is going to be our thing every year. And then they priced us out the market. We just could not afford anywhere from £500 to £1,000 for a weekend. When you consider you could go to Japan for nearly like once a year for the cost that you'd spend on 2 MCM Expos. It just became too expensive. It went, I think, when I first started going, you could get somewhere around 80 to 90 £90 a night. Even that was expensive, but it was London, so I kind of understood. But then it got to a point where it was like £200 to £230 a night in certain places if you booked late and you went, well, I kind of want to go and hang out with friends. And
to anybody who's been to the London show, you'll know that there's one of the hotels is in a boat that's permanently moored next to it. It's Sunborn.
Sunborn, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's stupidly expensive, and I know people who've stayed on it. And you think, Christ. I mean, I've stayed at the Novotel, and I've got a membership card with Accor, who own the Novotel group, and so I've used discount points to save on that, and that's still come like several hundred. It's quite costly, but you think that's actually, in the grand scheme of things, not even the most expensive hotel on site. I mean, like the apartments, the Aloft ones right behind the XL, they're something like about £1,000 for the weekend.
Yeah.
Just for the accommodation, and you think, Christ.
Then you've got to get down to London.
Yeah. Then you've got to pay for your merchandise and your entry,
which is about £10 to £15 a meal.
Yeah. Let alone bar tab for drinking. I mean, yeah, bar prices there are nuts.
I think a lot of people don't go to the Fox anymore because when I used to go, it was like there was 2 floors and it was like a lot better spaced out. But then they sold the top floor for a Starbucks. They stopped a little bit, like to kind of stop the back of it or something like that. And that to me was just, that's when I knew like things are getting more pricey. Like back in the day, 90 quid was so cheap. It was more like if you had 5 or 6 friends, you could easily like split that and be like, do you want to go to MCM? Yeah, it only costs like 20 quid to sleep the night. You're like, yeah. Now it's more like, hey, do you want to go to MCM? Yeah, it's going to cost you like 200 quid. That's between all of us or something like that, or that's £200 per person. Yeah. And I think because hotels see that, that's the reason why they up the price like way too much, because they know that if they charge like,
they know people's going to pay.
Yeah.
There's 2 reasons for that. One is the captive audience thing, obviously. They know it's prime. I mean, you've only got to look at the same hotels weekend either side of it, and the difference in price sometimes is twice, if not more. It's crazy. In fact, no, some of the rooms literally go from like £90 a night to like 180. It's crazy.
I mean,
but the other thing is insurance. I have never personally witnessed it, but I've seen enough of the ambient behaviour around site, especially of an evening, to know that there's probably some truth in it of the damages that have been done to hotels by young, drunk attendees. Because the problem with MCM is because it's such a big event and so many people go to it, you often get a group of young friends who are the first time away from the parents. They're going to hang out, they're going to, consume all of the media and figures and merchandise of the stuff that they're crazy about. And they're just old enough they can get in the bar and they can get shit-faced. And it's disgusting, the fact that, you'll see it of an evening, there'll be teams of people going around and cleaning up the green. It's why they've now locked off the green, especially of evenings, because people were just sitting around there drinking into the wee small hours and just lit. Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's like how some of the bars have now closed off some of the stuff because they caught people having sex. But it wasn't like old people. It was just like the younger audience, like as you said, the kids that have got away from their
I've heard
parents.
stories of people having sex in the Fox, and you think that's ridiculous.
Like, to be fair, it's so crowded that you could probably bump into them and just be like, "Sorry, mate, didn't know you were standing there." Just holding someone up.
This is going to sound like a sponsored ad spot, but this is why me and Annette have given up on going to MCM, and our main convention every year is going to Minamicon, because there's a smaller amount of people that go to it. So at max, you're talking 400 people that go through that hotel over a course of a weekend. It's already built into a hotel, so you get con rates if you're lucky. If not, there's a couple of other discount hotels that are kind of right next to it in a square. And the convention is not a giant dealer's room, which MCM Expo is. There's a small dealer's room, but a lot of it is panels and entertainment and stuff that is very much... It is run by fans. And you'll go and you'll look through the stuff and go, okay, that's not really for me. But actually, that panel is something that I've never seen before at any convention. That kind of takes my fancy, and you'll go to that. Or you'll pay to have access to go around, but you'll sit in the bar and you'll chat to friends and people who are like-minded about everything that's going on, but in a very accessible way.
Yeah, for me, I will probably not this year. If nothing else, because I don't think the October event's going to happen. But I generally, at one point a couple of years ago, I was doing both October and May for London. Realistically, the cost is getting too much. I go to London specifically because I want to catch up with, I've got a whole contingent of friends from Liverpool, I've got very Scottish friends, and a few friends that come in from overseas for London. And I want to say it's central. It is neither geographically nor transport-wise, but it's a nexus. But I don't really kind of buy a lot of merchandise. I don't really partake in any of the events going on necessarily. I'll go to a couple of cosplay photo shoots, but it's mostly just kind of catching up with friends. Whereas a traditional residential convention like Minamicon, I can catch up with my friends, and it's a lot easier to do because I know where I'm going to find them. Just, I'll just walk over to the bar, or, I can go to one of the function rooms and I'll probably find them. But I also can get involved. This, Ben. In fact, I'm wearing a Minamicon t-shirt. I've been going to Minamicon since Minamicon 13. And in that time, I've missed, 3 or 4 in 14 years I've been going. I'm on the convention staff there, so I help run the event. This year I ran a panel for it. I feel more connected and involved with fandom there than I do at a deal as they're like MCM.
So Mark has never been to a MinamiCon, but the best way I can describe it is,
Minamicon.
you know, when we went to PowerCon,
I'm guessing it's the exact same thing.
we sat around in the bar, we shut the shit, we had a
Yeah.
good conversation about the fandoms that we were involved in. Anybody that was running panels, yes, at PowerCon it was the celebrities that were talking about things came and chatted to us in the bar. You know, we sat and chatted to Bulk and Skull for periods of time in the bar and things like that. But it's that kind of environment that it's less people who have gone to it, so it's more intimate, and that is what draws people to MinamiCon. So I definitely need to drag you to MinamiCon at some point, just because I think once you're in, I don't think you'll look back.
Well, those sorts of conventions I kind of like because I do kind of like the personal touch from it. It's something a little bit different than going to an expo where, yeah, you walk around an entire day and look at the stuff that's bootleg or way too expensive. Like everyone has like their reasons for going. Like for me to go to MCM Expo, it was what?
Sorry,
So you just go.
I heard Chris typing, and then I didn't watch his fingers going.
Oh, okay. It's
Shut
one thing.
Sorry, I just posted something in chat just to kind of
Okay.
prompt the chat to see what their favourite cons are.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah. Oh, well, I go for the press element because I always go as press to like MCMs and stuff like that. And one of the best things that we had was roundtable events where you'd get a list and say, this is the time that you would do this. You would go up to the room and they would have like the guests there. You get interviews, and that's the reason why I went a lot because I found that enjoyable. But now that they've changed it to there's press, but then there's also YouTubers and stuff like that, which is exactly the same thing, but you can't go to an interview thing, which is just it's silly. But even like at other MCMs, they would turn around and go, well, yeah, we've got rid of this time. You can go watch on stage. You can go do this. And it didn't have that sort of kind of personality. Like it's more press is one thing. Like watching a panel on a stage is something completely different. So I think like MCM's changed quite a bit from that sort of element, but they're more as the new company is.
Okay.
They're kind of the new company is targeting other people. So it's more kind of everything is in one room. You have everything going, and then that's particular. Yeah. So it's a very interesting thing. So smaller conventions is something that I would possibly personally like. Because again, it's something different where it's like, cool, looked around that room, let's go drink, and then you spend time with your friends, and then you just get drunk.
I mean, this is the thing is the biggest difference really between the events like MCM or like San Diego Comic-Con or the big events like that versus the small independent events is that the big events are made by and run by corporate entities. They are there to make money. And the fact that MCM was then bought by Reed Pop, who own like New York Comic Con and a couple of other ones, it's a machine to make money, and so that's their driving force. It's factored in the way they do things. Whereas small residential conventions are run by fans for fans, so the focus as well as the scale is the key difference. I mean, I've been involved in conventions one way or another for 20 years, and I started with small scale conventions like that, and to me that's what a convention is. That's what I think of when I go to a convention. I enjoy MCM for what it is, but it to me is a very different beast. And ultimately, whether I'm going to a big event or a small event, I'm there because I want to hang out with friends and I want to talk to other people about the things that I'm interested in and that we share an interest in. And it's harder to do that when you're trying to find people amongst a sea of thousands, as opposed to in a small convention where you're there with a couple of hundred. You know, in somewhere like MinamiCon, where it's in the hotel, the bar is quite central to it. you could sit in the bar for the whole weekend and you would still interact with probably 2/3 of the attendees there just by little bits of conversation and stuff in the bar.
So one of the things I just want to mention is how the UK kind of is slightly disparate in terms of comparison to Japan. So yes, you've got things like Comiket in Tokyo, which is very much like your MCM, giant dealer's room and everything else.
Oh, Comicet's got some very weird and interesting rules as well.
It has, but one thing that even just in the 2 weeks me and Annette spent out in Tokyo is if you were around the Akihabara area, which is Geek Central, for anybody that doesn't know, people would queue up for different events and different themed events in this kind of like event viewing area every Saturday and Sunday, every weekend. We were only there for 2 weekends, but each weekend people would queue up. And so we were there when the new season of anime was just about to start, and people were there queuing up at 3 o'clock in the morning to because I had jet lag, so I went out and went for a wander.
They say that Tokyo is one of those cities that never sleeps anyway, so
yeah. So I had jet lag and went out for a wander, and I was wondering why these people were queuing up, but they went up and they're not to the scale of MCM, but there was maybe a couple of hundred people, maybe up to 1,000 at max, that were queuing up to go through this event and chat to fans, sit in the queue and chat to people, have a hangout, and go and see what the new anime is going to be, see what the merch was going to be, see trailers and things like that. And that's what people did, but that was every weekend. So instead of having this giant event where everybody went to, you could kind of go, well, that's relevant to my interests, I'm going to queue up for this weekend.
This week it's going to be about Gundam, or, you know, the Dragon Ball Z one's not for a few weeks, so I'll wait for that because that's what I'm interested in and I'm not in Gundam, or yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And then you just queue up and, you know, you'd be with people who, you know, you sit next to them and you can see the person that's got a Gundam themed chair that they're sat on, and you know that they're probably more hardcore than you are sat on a standard chair, or you know,
that's why. Sorry, go on.
I think that is a better way of approaching. I know it would never happen over here, where you would have an area where all of the otaku would be, and every weekend there is an event that is sponsored and there are things going on. But I found that to be one of the greatest ways of approaching things, and not have things like over the top and super populated, where you didn't have chance to go and see the stalls because, you know, there was just too many people there. I just liked the way that they had handled that, and, you know, not having to wait 6 months to go and experience something about your fandom, being able to go every couple of weeks or whatever down to Akihabara to experience something about your fandom, kind of, I don't know, it just felt a bit better to me than how the UK handles it.
I think with it being the UK and stuff like that, it's how people see it. So, like, take Japan. You know, they like, you could walk down the street, as you know, and then you'd look up and you'd see like construction working going on, and they would have a anime sign on it going like, "Oh, we apologize," or you could go to an area and you'd see anime pretty much everywhere. It's pretty much part of the culture. Where if you see it here and you put up an anime character, if you did the whole same thing with construction, you'd have old people going, "Oh, I wouldn't like that. That's not very good. Cartoons belong in the comics."
Yeah, but most in Tokyo, most of it was sectioned into Akihabara. If you go into Shinjuku or other areas, yes, there might be something slapped on the side of a vending machine or something, or go into a gacha machine, and you can see like the characters on the side of it whilst you get a pod. But most of it was very segmented, but it was kind of welcomed in that sense.
Well, I think it's because it's more, I think, culture. Like, the only time you probably would see stuff like over here is if it was Little Tokyo Town or Chinatown or Koreatown, whatever that is in, like, say, London. You know, I feel like with the culture here is it's not accepted yet. It's more kind of frowned upon. Like I reckon if someone walked down the street in, what do they call it? Is it the gal kind of get up in Japan where it's like literally like painted face?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's it. Where if someone walked down in the street like that, people would stare. People would go think, or like Lolita as well. People would go, "Oh no, that's wrong. I don't like that." But in Japan,
That's
it's like
fetish.
oh,
That's sexualized. That's a bit wrong.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, but
I mean, bear in mind is that when that sort of thing, or even the visual K outfits and all those kind of crazy aesthetics come out, is that when that becomes mainstream, you have to be that much weirder to stand out. I mean, you got to bear in mind is that the Ko-girls or Ko-Gyaro, it evolved into the most niche form of it was a ridiculous, almost Donald Trump-esque levels of tangerine fake tan, massive hair and fake nails, and it was called Yamamba, which literally means old mountain hag. You know, that's a fashion style.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, counterculture is a really odd thing because Japan is weirdly accepting that, which is odd because it's a fundamental shift against the values of Japan as a nation, which is very kind of homogenized society, which looks at focusing on considering other people. The fact that Japanese family values and business values are always about the working for the collective. You know, you don't want to. People don't throw wild parties because you don't want to offend the neighbours. You don't want to be seen to cause a fuss. Whereas over here, people are just like, yeah, I'm going to blare music out and be really, really drunk and have a loud house party.
Well,
and if my neighbours really feel bad about it, they're going to call the police.
Over there, if you want to have a loud party and be really loud and get really rambunctious, what you'll do is you'll book out a karaoke room, you'll pay and get unlimited drinks and just be loud in the karaoke room. They have stuff that's there to facilitate that, and you know, a lot of the drinking culture and everything is kind of built into how they operate, and there's stuff there for you to do it.
What you tend to find is also like where we have like a culture of bars in this country, that's not really such a common thing in Japan. You tend to get a lot of small restaurants, so you might drink a lot of beer, but you'll also be like having lots of ramen and yakitori while doing it, and rather than being like a large like Weatherspoons, which will have like a couple of hundred people in, maybe not at the moment, you'll get these small izakayas, these little sort of tiny little restaurants, which will sort of have like 20 to 30 people in, and you'll see
even less in some cases. Some of the places we saw could only sit a maximum of 8 people. So you would have a very small amount of people just sitting there eating little bits of chicken off stick or fish off stick and supping their beer, their Sapporo.
Yeah, and it's kind of those long bench style things, like you might see in a Go Sushi or a Wagamama's. And the interesting thing with that is that if you go in with a large group of friends, then you can take over the place. But if you just, you and a friend go in, you sit there and you might not know the people you get to. But the idea is that over the course of like eating and drinking and spending a little while there, you might start talking to the people next to you, and that kind of ethos. And even down to the fact that they have public maths, there's a sense of community that exists in Japanese society that doesn't exist over here. And so, because that facet doesn't translate, the way in which subcultures are viewed also doesn't translate the same way.
So I've just noticed that we've only got a couple of minutes left. I'm just going to ask this question: if this show ever picks up to the point where we're raking in shed loads of money and everything else from people subscribing and everything else,
Trip to Japan.
Trip to Japan?
That's
you
what I
joked about this before, didn't you, on Twitter of the road trip? We're going to video vlog it.
Yeah, we'll live stream our trip to Kyoto, which is where the Evangelion. Was it Kyoto where the Evangelion theme park is now?
Oh, no, it's Fuji Q.
Fuji.
So it's yeah, it's just outside of Tokyo.
Okay. What, even that new exhibit? I thought it was Kyoto.
Well, I mean, there's Evangelion bits and pieces all over the place, but the theme park with the one-to-one scale animatronic head of Unit 1, that's in the Fuji Q park, because you've got Ava World, which is this tiny bit of the Fuji Q park. I don't know if it's still there, but they also had, as well as the roller coasters, they also had like a sub part that was just for Sengoku Basara.
So yeah, I'd be well up for, like, I'm already planning my next trip to Japan. That is.
I've been meaning to do it for years, so
Same here.
all the money that I'm not spending going to the pub at the moment, well, I'd like to say it's going towards that. It's probably going towards.
You can pay for our flights.
Oh, thanks.
No. I'm using the time to kind of get various things done. I haven't needed to use it because it's sunlight streaming at the moment, but I've got brand new spotlights fitted, so the overall lighting level in my living room is a lot better now, which would be useful. Yeah, I've got various building work I need doing on my flat, and then there's the vague possibility that I keep kind of going, shall I look at buying a house? I'm like, actually, I've got a mortgage here. It's a good location. It's the right size. I can afford to do the things I want to do, so I'm in no hurry to move. But yeah, something like that would be cool.
Yeah.
What we need to do, we need to get more viewers and get more engagement. It does feel like the engagement sort of tailed off. But it looks like some people have kind of left the video already, but hopefully for those of you who stuck around and enjoyed this, you will continue to come back and engage with us more.
As I say, it's early days, and if we decide to save up money ourselves and go out anyway, we could, use this opportunity to stream something out there. As long as Mark stops spending money on £180 lights, he will be able to afford to go out to Japan as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that the sound of? Damn it! I wish I had those lights.
Well, I think we start small. I think we need to kind of build up a regular following for this, and maybe like live stream video diary, or do something where we involve or film ourselves at conventions and use that, and maybe.
Maybe Ben, me and you could go down to the Nanoleaf factory and see how they're made and make a documentary.
I mean, they are made in Tokyo, to be fair. I think the Nanoleaf lights.
Oh, there we go.
So...
See? There we go.
But yeah,
there we go. I'm sure we could arrange something.
It is, the light level has dropped to the point where my camera can no longer stay in focus with my face. So I think that's probably a good place to call it. It is now 9 o'clock. We are back on, let me check the date. So the 24th, Friday the 24th.
Yes.
Come back in focus. There we go. Come back. There we go. So, and I'm out of focus again. So yeah, I need to get better lighting. But yeah, we'll be back on Friday. Yeah. We'll be back on Friday the 24th to keep talking about otaku stuff, Japan culture, Japan trips, anything.
Great questions next time. I feel like we started paying attention to the chat after all the flurry of chat was going on. So bring questions, and we will try and engage with you guys a bit more, because we've talked a lot about us and our experience. And we need to talk more with you and about your experience.
Exactly right. So, and I'm out of focus. Am I going to come back in focus? Come on, camera.
Just give up.
Yeah, so I think we'll call it there. Thanks for everybody that's kept us company in the chat. Thanks for people that have been tuning in and watching us. And we'll see you on, I think it was the 24th, for the very next stream. Bye, guys.
24th.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.